Hey everybody, Up and Adam here. How's she going? Another lonely night here in the woods. Not a whole lot going on now. The spring season's coming to an end, and we'll soon be taking the machinery home. So just thought I'd come on, strike up a little conversation. Harvester guys, operators seem to do their best thinking when they're working by themselves. It's all we really have to do besides work. And sometimes we talk to ourselves. Who am I kidding? Not sometimes, all the time. But there's been a topic on my mind, and I'm not going to rush into it, but I've had a lot of people message me about, and there's a big concern around my general area where I live, the whole provinces, Atlantic provinces, and that is the word tariffs. Everybody hears the word tariffs now. Our government is at a trade war, from what they say, based on the tariffs. So let's dig into how the tariffs on softwood lumber, which is common to hear, affect our industry. So first of all, I had a misconception myself about how these tariffs work. And when I heard that Canada was going to have a 25% tariff on it, I thought, well, hey, that's going to cost us 25% more to ship our stuff to the United States. Since I started digging, come to find out, the U.S. citizens are going to be the one they're absorbing the cost. So, just for an example, let's take a generic 2x4. So everybody knows what a 2x4 is. Not that complicated. Let's just say that the 2x4 is a $4 2x4. So if the $4 2x4 in an American lumber supply store of, say, I don't know, Home Depot, some kind of lumber distributor or whatever, if it's American made and it costs $4, then the American people are going to pay $4 for the 2x4. If it's a Canadian 2x4 shipped in from us, that 2x4 is going to cost $5, 25% more, which means 25 cents on the dollar, and it's going to cost $5. So those American citizens are going to see basically a choice, I would think, of two different types of lumber. One American made, homegrown as you would say, or one Canadian that we would export to them. Now, you may not think, well, one 2x4 is $4, one 2x4 is $5. That's not a big deal. Remember, it's a percentage. So the more the original cost, the more that it's going to cost on the tariff side on our product. So let's say you get into 2x6s and stuff like that are 16 feet long. Maybe you get a pressure treated one or something, maybe it's $20. Well, 25% on $20 is another $5. So ours would be $25, theirs would be $20. Okay, so enough of those examples. You get the picture. So what is happening because of that? Why the tariffs? And when you stop and think about it, I know everybody comes out and says, oh, Donald Trump, we hate Trump. All that. We're Canadians. Donald Trump is the U.S. president, not the Canadian prime minister, not anything. Yes, he has things that he's trying to do. He's trying to look after the United States. That's it. And in doing the tariffs, he's doing a few things. I want you to understand that now. Don't jump on me already, because I want you to understand how this works. By doing the tariffs, first of all, he wants his U.S. citizens to support locally made products. If it's made in the U.S., he wants you to buy in the U.S. It makes sense. Everybody's talking about buy homegrown or buy local. In Canada, we're doing the same thing. You just see it behind the media that Trump's the bad guy. Well, the other thing that it does, is it also allows businesses, which this is what we don't want to see, businesses in the United States to manufacture those products in the United States without the tariff. So he's trying to pull businesses into the United States and, set up shop. What does that do? Creates jobs. Sound familiar? We want to do that here. We need to create jobs. We want our economy to boom. The third thing is the tariffs also create something that a lot of people don't realize, is inflation. And how it creates inflation is the fact that if your product runs out, your only choice would be to go with a different product, which would be in their case, if your American products ran out, you have to buy Canadian. We already covered that. The Canadian one's going to cost a little more. Not only that, you get distributors saying, oh, the Canadian lumber is this much. What if we just up the prices a little bit? We'll make more of a profit. And, people will just think that it's not a big deal because they're going to pay the same either way. U.S. companies will make more of a profit. Wouldn't they? Take a $5 Canadian 2x4, remember? And slap a $5 bill on the American 2x4. They just made another $1 profit on that same 2x4. And the price is the same. Get the picture yet? So, that's the three things that I can figure so far that it does. What we don't want to see in Canada is the same problem where we counter tariff. Remember what I just said? Tariffing can cause inflation and all that stuff on the long run. Here's the difference. Trump is actually offering to reduce income tax and things in the States that will allow his people to have more money in their pocket. That's great. Everybody wants more money in their pocket. I do. I work hard for my money. I don't want to give it all away in taxes. I don't have a choice. So when Trump says he's going to reduce the taxes based on how much he's bringing in tariffs, and he's going to tariff the whole world, then the U.S. citizens are being more looked after by the fact that they're getting more of their paychecks. So if inflation hits, cause a little bit higher product, would you be willing to pay a little more for a product if you made more money or if you brought home more of your money? I know I would be. I'd love to have more of my paycheck. Man, like in the run of a year, you can rack up a big income tax bill. So that's the way he's looking at it. Now, on our end of things, don't jump on me already. We've already heard for the last little while, carbon tax. Carbon tax, carbon tax, carbon tax. There's carbon tax on everything. We breathe in oxygen, breathe out carbon dioxide, and we're taxed for our footprint that you can't measure. None of the carbon tax thing seems to make sense to me. They say it's rescuing the planet, rescuing the environment, all that stuff by creating. Okay, I see a few different things that make sense, but there's a lot of things that don't make sense with it too. Like, does the money actually get to the environment? There's a lot of money coming out of big businesses and stuff that create it. Okay, well, charge the companies carbon tax based on the amount they do for emissions. And that's a whole different topic, but it's starving people. Like, literally starving people. People can't afford anything because of things like carbon tax. People can't afford to go to work. People can't afford food. They can't afford housing. They can't afford, like I don't got to go very far before you find a lot of homeless people. I've said it in other videos. They're everywhere. People lose their houses. They can't pay taxes. Man, just alone, between me and my friends, like things like property taxes have skyrocketed. Things like our power bills have skyrocketed. Our housing costs, housing values, grocery costs, insurance, because the value of everything has gone up. Insurance companies want to put more on you because things are valued higher. And just based on the fact that they want to do this, charge people on this carbon tax, people are suffering. It ain't right. I don't care what anybody says. Go for it, save the environment. Man, they've been talking recyclables and saving the planet since the ozone layer had a hole in it years ago. I guess it got paid off. It's paid for now, I guess, because the carbon tax paid for it and got it fixed. I don't know. But Canada faces that differently than the United States does. I was in the States last year for vacation. Beautiful down there. Love it down there. I'd go again if I could afford it right now, but you know how prices of everything goes. But like, they don't hand you a paper straw wrapped in a paper wrapper and a plastic cup. You get your typical cardboard or the old style wax cardboard cup, say McDonald's or whatever, and you get a plastic straw. Go ahead, recycle, do all that. I'm all for reusing materials. Why not? Like, if you can recycle and reuse wood fiber, go to it. I don't know how you're going to do it, but you could. So if there's only so much plastic or rubber or oil or all that stuff, if you can recycle it and rebuild it into different products, go to her. But like I said, in the States, you're not given the wooden fork for your poutine. My wife eats poutine, and just about anywhere we go, she'll try a poutine, and then they hand her as takeout a wooden fork. Really? Like, a wooden fork. I work in the woods and I don't want to eat off a wooden fork. But they look at things differently down there. And the economy right now up here is tight. People are suffering. You can't hardly survive. So why are we so concentrating on that there when people are starving to death? People losing jobs, losing houses, all that. Like, I don't get that part. We have to look after the people. People are important. Like, those are lives that they're being suffered because of things like extra taxes, and we've already had carbon taxes boosted 2, 3, maybe 4 times. Oh, right. That's right. It's eliminated right now. And all the other things that happen in Canada when, we're not getting a relief on our taxes. We're not getting a relief anywhere else. Like, we're just pay, and it's take. We're going to save the planet. Take, but you're going to starve to death doing it. You're not going to be able to retire, all that other stuff. It's just a big mess. So there's totally 2 different scenarios going on. You might see the good and the bad. You might see the bad and the good. So a lot of people tend to just look at the bad. A lot of people don't even understand and just go, no, I hate that. I hate this. I hate this. I hate this guy. I hate this guy. We need an economy to boom, and we need her now. Canada's got to come out of it, or a lot more people are going to get hurt because of inflation, cost of living. It's terrible. Canada's not what Canada used to be. You got to think about that. Where are we now? Where are we going? What's going to happen in the next 5 years, 10 years? I've got a young fella right now that's graduating high school, and what's he going to do? Go to university? Go to college? Go to work? Go to whatever? He can't afford to live anywhere. He can't afford to rent an apartment. Between $1,500 and $2,000 a month rent to rent an apartment. My house mortgage is not that much. Strange. You know, he's got to support himself. Cars and stuff through the roof. All that, like, he just feels defeated before he even starts. And I would imagine there's a lot of high school students and everything out there, everybody out there trying to figure out what to do. Man, like, how do you set a goal when things are hardly attainable for the people that are out there working and got full careers and everything? It's difficult. It's time that we just settle her down and get at it. We got to get this straightened up here. So, what happens back in the lumber agreement? So, now you get the idea what happens in the lumber when the tariffs go on, who pays for it, stuff like that. We don't have to pay to export our products. That's all on them. And they're going to end up paying. But like I said, tariffs in Canada, counter tariffs and all that, I don't think are a good idea. If, the way I see it, if they're going to put tariffs on it, okay, you just do your tariff thing. Eventually, things are going to work out that they probably can't do what they think they're going to do. I did a little research on the amount of wood and things like that in the United States. Right now, they have, a small part of their economy is based on forestry and logging and mills and stuff like that. 85% of their lumber used in the United States pre-tariff came from Canada. 85%. That's a lot of lumber. And Canada has the lumber. I also found a map on there that shows the amount of salvageable wood, the land mass of wood land, basically, that's evergreen and stuff like that can be used for structural timber that can be made into things like 2x4 and all that stuff. It's like 40% of their land mass. And it's pretty low, the percentage of actual evergreen or softwood that they can use, because most of it is hardwood. And the further into the states you go, down into the southern states, it becomes like things like yellow pine and decorative stuff that we use here. But I don't think you'd want to use it for structural. Maybe they do. I don't know. They don't deal with the same things we do for our lumber. We don't deal with extreme heat and stuff like that like they do, and they don't deal with things like snow load like we do. Like, that changes things a lot. So when I dug into it a little further, not only do they not have the forests that can handle it, they don't have the infrastructure. I went back to the late 80s between our prime minister and their president, and the free trade agreement. The free trade agreement in lumber, like, don't worry about all the other stuff, I'm just talking about lumber. But the free trade agreement for lumber was, they come after Canada because they couldn't afford to make lumber and sell it in their own country, in the United States, as cheap as Canada could make it, ship it, and sell it in the United States. Do you think that changed? No. Why would that not have changed? Well, their woodland, being mountain range, swamp ground, stuff like that, it costs a lot more to get their wood from where they are than what we are. Plus, we have a whole infrastructure of logging, forestry, and everything, with all the mills, all the logging equipment. And if you look at the map of Canada, sorry, I had a top land on me here. The map of Canada is like, I don't know, all of the border provinces all have strong evergreen wood, and majority of our wood, except for a little bit of southern Ontario and like over towards where we work in New Brunswick and all that, is a mix of hardwood and softwood. But majority of Canada's wood is salvageable evergreen for structural timber. So we have the wood. They don't. And by the time that this free trade agreement came around, they signed it all off. It was to eliminate any tariffs and allow everybody to trade their products equally. Give them an equal shot to sell their lumber, because when you stop and think about it, if they couldn't sell it as cheap as we could, then who was selling the products? The U.S. wasn't selling their products. We were. We were selling our products down there. So now, when they want to go 100% U.S. lumber, where is the infrastructure? It's going to take a long time, 2-3 years, to create all those mills. I know the government's going to dump money down there. They're going to, because they want to. But all the mills, the logging equipment, the amount of training, there's so much involved with setting up stuff, like setting up the infrastructure of forestry to allow the United States to go 100% American-made lumber only. Mr. Trump's a very smart man, as far as I can see. I don't know him personally, but that's what I look at, and I don't know how it's going to happen. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I don't know. I'm not a politician. I don't know the money. I don't know how they're set up. I don't know what's already on the go. But to me, you know, it's an altogether different story. Now, like I said, when I was younger, when this free trade agreement came out, now, make me sound a little old, but, you know, I was 7 or 8 years old when this free trade agreement came out in the 80s. And we could go to our local mill, and they had a lumber yard where we could go, and if we needed 2x4, if we needed 1x6, if you needed any kind of wood at all, you could just go to the mill, go to the lumber yard, kind of like going to Kent's or Home Depot or something and buying lumber from there, except you were doing it at the mill at a fraction of the cost. So when it comes to things like that, homegrown or homemade or locally owned and operated, whatever, should be cheaper. And if our lumber in my hometown, let's say, you know, our local mill or whatever sold lumber in our yard or at their yard cheaper, then people would build instead of having to go through the legalities of making it work through the free trade agreement and all that, and tariffing and all that. So when it comes to the lumber that we ship out of here, now that you kind of see the big picture, eventually it seems like they're going to end up coming back to us and saying, okay, we are going to need to buy some of your lumber. Well, when they need to, what should we do? You don't want to just hand it over for free or give it. You're going to pay for it. The demand went up. You know, ever learned in high school the supply and demand? The higher the amount of demand is, if the supply is low, then it actually costs more to get the few products that are available than if the supply is low, or the supply is high, the demand is low. Those products are cheaper because nobody's really looking for it. Remember back in COVID, lumber shot through the roof, everything shot through the roof because of supply and demand. There wasn't any lumber. Mills were complaining, they said they had no wood, and we were paying through the roof for anything to do our little projects with. Supply and demand, it happened back then too. So what do? That's what I said. Tell them they want to use our lumber, you're going to pay for it. We can't outprice and go insane, but that would boom our economy in our forestry sector. You know, it would help out up here. It might not be enough to, you know, make them end up going to other countries or go to Europe or all that stuff. It's going to be cheaper to come here than it is anywhere. But at least then we have a good salvageable sale for our products. Sure, the supply might go down for a while, and that's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing the mills take precautionary measures. It seems like a lot of mills put statements out. You know, you see them on Facebook and all that, and people get panicking, where they're putting notices to say that we're not doing any contracts, we're holding inventory, we're not buying wood, stuff like that. It makes sense, because if I had a whole bunch of stuff that I wanted to sell, and all of a sudden the demand for that product could be compromised, I don't want to just load up and keep trucking, just go crazy and fill my inventory for something I can't sell. Then it affects your supply and demand thing, remember? So you got way too much supply, and the demand makes the price go down because the demand's not there. So you can't sell it. Get the picture now. So I think myself, we're going to see a little bit of a change. We're going to see a few things happen. Industry is going to have to adjust a little bit. Yes, definitely. The guys in the seat, don't take me wrong, But we got to start thinking just like contractors do, and start thinking efficiency. We got to start thinking how are we going to make it cheaper or better for the contractors. Things like fuel costs, like fuel's pretty crazy. Things like maintenance costs, if you're rough on the machinery. There are guys out there that's rough. I'm not calling anybody out individually, just there are guys out there that are rough. They break down a lot and tear hoses off, maybe showing up late for work. You know, if that stuff happens, you want to try to get there a little early. You know, try to make it the best possible option so that it's as efficient and the business that you're working for is doing as best you can. One thing that I know I'm going to try to do in the off season is get a little exercise. You know, don't get a whole lot of exercise working 12-hour shifts, sitting in a seat and eating sandwiches, I guess. Well, it's going to pack on what we call harvester belly. No matter what age you are, that starts to hit you. But we just got to kind of look at things on how we can improve, how we can make this whole situation better for us. And I think efficiency is the best way to do it. You know, not always just being grunt force and labor. Like, got to start thinking a little bit. We just can't produce, kill. You know, drive. And I mean, is it more important for you to have another $1 or $2 more an hour, or is it more important for you to have a stable job? Because sometimes you wanting a little extra can cost you your job if the money's not there. And we may end up in that area. I don't know. You know, I can't see it being as bad as what people are worried about, but you know, that's kind of the take I have on it, and I may be wrong. It's a voodoo subject because nobody wants to talk about it. But in my aspect, and just sitting back thinking and discussing it with a few friends, or with you know, my dad and I talk about things like that. He's been in the business for years and now retired, and you know, stuff like that. It's just the way I look at it. And instead of everybody jumping on the bandwagon of what you're being told and what the social medias and what all that stuff actually throw at you to make you believe it, then I think it's going to be okay. Canada definitely needs to get on the ball. We got to get off of this whole everything free programs. We got to get off of that. You might think that having free whatever makes sense. Any program that comes through the government that's free is not free, because the working man pay for it. The government has to have money to pay for those, and if it's you know, hundreds of millions of dollars to create a program to give you $500 a year on your dental, somebody's going to have to pay for it. The taxes have got to come somewhere to pay for that program, and most of the time it's on the backs of the working man. So it's time to really start settling in, thinking about what's going to happen. We have an election coming right up. Right now, there's a lot of up and down. There's a lot of media coverage. There's a lot of everything. Think about what you want to see in the next few years. Don't just go by what everything else is happening, what everybody's saying, all that. I know I don't like to get into too much political with everybody else, but I just like to see us do better than what we're doing right now and allow a working man a good living. All of you guys out there are working hard. I know there's a lot of people struggling, and that's my take on the whole thing. I just see we could do better. And but for now, I don't think I'd be overly crazy. Let us see how it's going to work out. Could be the very best. May long weekend is when our forestry starts back up again. It'll be finishing soon. Month of April's usually off, and by May long weekend, we'll see what happens. We're going to have a whole new. It's going to be new government either way. Something's going to be If you have any questions, I know it's one of those subjects that people are going to jump on me for, but it affects me. And if something affects me, I dig in. I try to find out as much as I can about it. And sometimes there's nothing I can do to change it, but I can always prepare, try to figure out what the best option is, and just see how it's going to cause me to react, because like panicking and losing your heads over things doesn't work. So until next time, let's get at her, folks.